So we have about 5 minutes. I'm going to allow others to join us. Is everyone, let's see. Coast to coast. Okay, everyone, we're going to get started in about 2 minutes. In about 2 minutes, we're going to get started. Is it Friday? Yeah.
No, you're a couple days away.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we are a bit early. I mean, we do have a minute, but it's going to take me some time to kind of get through this introduction for this evening's candid conversation with another candidate. This candidate is running for Superior Court Judge, Fulton County Superior Court Judge, and her name is Judge Allyson Pitts. For those of you who do not know me, I am Daphne Jordan. I am the administrator for Safer Communities in South Fulton Group, where we have advocated for safer communities over the past 5 years. And that group is inclusive of elected officials from the federal level to the state, county, city. We have police chiefs in the group. We have a little bit of all of the different, we have some judges in the group as well, where we actually can post questions and you'd be surprised who may answer those questions for you. So the group was designed with citizen advocacy in mind, where we put ourselves in a position to advocate for safer communities. And we've done a really good job of that over the past 5 years. I'm very proud of the work that we have done. And because of that work, I'm often tapped to speak to candidates that are running. And a Superior Court judge is a very important position for safer communities and for our justice system. So I'm excited about what we're about to engage and embark upon tonight with the awesome Judge Allyson Pitts. So without further ado, I want to ask all of you to mute your phones if you have not done so. Please put yourselves on mute because I do hear some background noise. Otherwise, I'll be able to get to that in just a moment. And we are going to have a conversation. So we won't, unless Judge Pitts, unless she acknowledges some of the questions, if you do place them in the chat, but more or less, this is just an opportunity for you to be able to.
Okay, she's got the link.
Okay, so for you to be able to engage with us on tonight, okay? So without further ado, I am going to introduce you all to Judge Allyson Pitts. And the first thing I want you to do, Judge Pitts, because you're already a judge. And so it's a formal way for me to reference you, but you're currently a judge. So go ahead and give us a little background. And it's not going to be little from what I already know. But give us some background. Tell us about yourself, your schooling, any civic organizations, and your community involvement.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Daphne, for allowing me this opportunity to address the citizens of Fulton County, particularly citizens of South Fulton, as well as other places. And thank you for this opportunity to, for this platform. First of all, I am Judge Allyson Pitts. Originally, I'm from Detroit, but I chose Atlanta many, many years ago to serve as my home. As far as my background, I went to West Virginia University College of Law for law school. I had lived in Atlanta or Georgia for about 7 years before I went to law school. And immediately after I graduated from law school, I came right back to Georgia. So I started out my career as a staff attorney. Well, actually, we were law clerks back then. Now they're called law clerks, or staff attorneys. And I worked with one of the Fulton County Superior Court judges. I belong to quite a few organizations. I started doing a lot of community service shortly after I moved here through the King Center. I don't know if you all remember, but the King Center used to have weekly, weekend events that celebrated the King holiday. We started in May and I believe it ended in August, and I was down there on a regular basis. In fact, I've got a long time, lifelong friend that I've made from there, and you'll see her dispersed throughout the campaign. But I do a lot of community service through Habitat for Humanity, as well as through my church. I belong to Ben Hill United Methodist Church. And more recently, with the pandemic, we were doing COVID testing. And so I was very active in the COVID testing, as well as our food bank ministry. I'm a member of Georgia Association of Black Women Attorneys. In fact, I'm a past president from 2004, member of Gate City Bar Association. I am the 2012 Judicial Chair. I am also a board member of Carrie Steele Pitts Home. I belong to a running club, which is the South Fulton Running Partners. And I bring that up because our primary community service project, when the organization was first started in 1979, was the Sickle Cell Road Race. And if anyone is familiar with the sickle cell road race, it's been going on for many, many years. And the money that's donated or that is received from that race helps children with sickle cell go to Camp New Hope, which is a camp where they can just enjoy being a child who just happens to have sickle cell. Through Gavois, I do community service, which we do on a regular basis. I'm also a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And of course, we do a lot of community service. I am a member of the Metro Lions Club. I always forget about the Lions Club. And I just recently was reacquainted with several of my members after having been disconnected for a while, even though I was still financial with COVID, a lot of things changed. And so it was difficult to really stay in touch with people. But I just recently reconnected and I'm so happy to have been back with them. And so, there's a lot of community service, a lot of civic organizations that I belong to, and there's just a great connection to the community as a whole.
I would say absolutely. You are pretty loaded. I wasn't familiar with the South Fulton Runners Club. That's a new one.
We are the oldest nationally known Black running organization. They started in September of 1979.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's news to me.
Now,
and so you have time to run.
Well, I normally do. I will tell you a little bit. During COVID, we were so isolated. So really the only thing I could do was exercise, outside of going to work or, still doing some things by Zoom. The only other thing that we could really do is exercise. So I started running with one of my running partners, and I was much slower at the time, and he was extremely patient. But over a period of months, I've become faster and faster. And so from July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of 2021, I ran 765 miles.
Oh
and
my God.
That's the most miles that I've run ever.
The most ever?
Ever in that period of time. And so I'm not going to make it this year because I've had some other things come up, but I still try to get in a little bit of exercise, just a way to relieve stress.
Well, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get 763 steps a day. So that is very, very impressive. But as a judge, tell us a little bit more about your background. Have you been in which systems? Because I can actually, read them off for everyone, but you don't have to read everything because we may be here all night, Judge Pitts. But,
well, I'll tell you.
Share.
Sure. Currently, I serve as a municipal court judge in the city of East Point Municipal Court, where I've served since May of 2007. So I believe it's May 9th, I would have served for 15 years. And so that's a long time to have been in that one position, but I absolutely enjoy what I'm doing. It's a great honor to be able to serve the citizens of East Point as well as the citizens of Fulton County. In addition, I serve as a municipal court judge for the city of Atlanta, and I've been there since April of 2017. I was just reappointed in April of this year, in fact, for another 4-year term. And then in June of 2019, I started serving as a visiting or a pro tem judge for juvenile court. And in March of 2020, I was sworn in as a regular part-time judge. So those are the 3 positions that I currently hold. But over the years, I have had several other positions. I've been the chief judge of Forest Park Municipal Court. I've served in Fulton County as a magistrate and a judicial officer. And I've served in magistrate court as well. So I've got a plethora of experience over the years.
I would say, and you're saying that with such a humble spirit.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And so with your extensive background in these various positions as a judge, what would you say is your judicial philosophy?
So my judicial philosophy stems from the fact that the function of the law is to ensure justice and fairness. And so ensuring justice and fairness is a balancing act, and it helps to rebuild the trust the trust in the judicial system. To do so requires us to have experience. It requires us to have knowledge and compassion. And so everyone, I believe, that comes before the court should be treated fairly. They should be treated with respect. And I believe that we should have a level of compassion and a discerning heart when we're dealing with persons that's coming into the court. I also believe that everyone in the works in the justice system has a responsibility and an opportunity to work together so that we can better the community as well as the individual. The matters that come before this court need to be heard without, people say they don't know what undue delay is, but there shouldn't be any time lapse, when people talk about undue delay, because a lot of times you think about justice and injustice. And so many times you think if something is being held up for whatever reason, then that could create an unjust situation. And so you want to make sure that those cases are heard judiciously, but not to put any rush on them, because there are cases that need plenty of time for preparation. So there's some cases that you can figure out based on the type of cases they are, that they can be resolved in a much quicker fashion. And then there's those that need the time for prompt preparation. And we as judges, we must remain neutral when we're considering the facts of each case. And I believe that we need to look at the overall situation and not just the situation that's presented to us, meaning not just the facts, but look at the person as a whole and help to try to determine what has brought them to this position or to this place or to this court, to try to make the situation better for them, as well as making a safer community as well.
I was just waiting on that one, because as a community, we want what's best for both parties, but we're also seeking justice in cases where it helps to keep us safe. So I was very glad to hear you say that.
And that's why I was thinking that, we need to be able to balance that, bringing in the needs of the individual as well as the needs of the community. And I think the community needs to be involved in helping to determine, what other resources, what other opportunities can we present in order to make their community safer.
Absolutely. And, as a community, like you said, we do have a responsibility as well. And so I often take it upon myself to go and sit and listen to certain cases for me to get a better understanding. And in the past, we did have, I can't remember the exact name of this program. It was through the DA's office, but we were able to, we were invited to come listen to certain cases. And that's when it really opened my eyes to, what type of cases judges have to listen to every day and what type of impact communities can have, on those outcomes. And in some cases, we actually did have a voice and it made a difference. So I completely wholeheartedly agree with your statement on us all working together. What makes you a better candidate and a better candidate than your opponent for the office that you're seeking?
Everybody has the slogan that experience matters, and I wholeheartedly agree. As I stated earlier, I started my career in the Superior Court, this very Superior Court, as a law clerk with one of the Fulton County Superior Court judges who is now retired. And I was able to observe through a different lens how justice works. And I'll take us back up a little bit. Growing up, my mother actually worked in the court system in Detroit. And so a lot of times I would just go down there if it's a half a day or off day and just sit in the courtroom and watch the cases. A lot of times I was able to speak with the judges that she worked with and some of the attorneys. And so it really became a very interesting insight to see how they would represent the clients as the attorney and how the judge would take the time to really hear and listen and make a determination on what the outcome of the case would be. So that deliberation was very important when it came to the fact that, we as judges have a very big responsibility when it comes to affecting persons' lives, because we do affect their lives wholeheartedly. Even if you've never come into this court, the decisions that are made on this bench affect everybody. But addition in private practice, I handle criminal cases. I've handled family law cases, probate cases, as well as some civil cases and personal injury. And so I practiced in this very court when I first started practicing after my service as a law clerk. I appeared in front of some of the judges who, well, there's a few judges I think who may be still on the bench, but later I served as a Fulton County public defender where I represented clients who were considered indigent and who have been charged with crimes from misdemeanors up to felonies. And so they could be looking at anywhere from, months in jail or prison and up to life in prison. And so when you're talking about those types of situations, it's, very important that you know the background of the person. I want to share, when I was in private practice, I represented this young man who was, I believe he was 16 years old. And he was kind of the nerdy kid. He was an AB student. His father had recently passed. It was his mother and his sister. He had a little job that would help, for the family. Well, he had some neighbors who were, kind of the, bad boys in the neighborhood. And they talked my client into going on a journey with them. And the three of them ultimately got in trouble and were charged with armed robbery. And so it really was disheartening to know that because there are certain mandatory sentences that the judge could not make any decision other than what the law says. But I think that we do have, as judges, discretion when it comes to our sentencing outside of our hands being tied for these mandatory sentences. But now, again, I serve as a judge in several jurisdictions. In the municipal courts, I hear cases such as traffic violations, city code violations. I handle first appearance, bond hearings, and then I sign warrants. So I'm listening to cases to determine whether probable cause does exist for some of the crimes that are being brought forth. I do that in both the City of Atlanta Municipal Court as well as East Point Municipal Court. And then in juvenile court, of course, I'm hearing cases that involve juveniles under a certain age, because of course, if they are charged with felony charges, those cases go before the Superior Court judges. So I also, I don't think I've mentioned, I think I did mention, I served as a judicial officer in this Fulton County Magistrate Court or Fulton County Juvenile Court. And in that situation, I heard family law cases, but I also was able to sit by designation through Magistrate Court, hearing some of the criminal cases, particularly first appearance and bond hearings. And I do the first appearance and bond hearings also in the City of Atlanta and East Point Municipal Court. So not only do I bring balance to the court based on my background in practice, but also bring 15 years of judicial experience. And that judicial experience is where I have been entrusted to make the decisions that affect people's everyday lives. And like I said earlier, experience does matter, but I also have connection to the community. I have connection based on my church affiliation. I'm a member of Ben Hill United Methodist Church, through the community service projects that I do that are fluid throughout Fulton County, through my board service at the Pitts home. So I have the connection to the community, which I think is important because we need to know what's happening in our own community. We need to know that we have situations that affect everybody. And so it's important that I believe we are connected to the community where we'll be serving. Again, I think I mentioned it, I chose Georgia, specifically Atlanta, to be my home. And I believe that my service would be beneficial to this court. I have been a victim 2 times of an attempted break-in. I've had a gun pulled on me. And so, yes, and so it was a scary situation, but even despite that, I still believe that everyone needs to be in a safe community. Everyone needs to be treated fairly, and there should be, everyone should have, their day in court. And so I'm vested in creating a safe community. I am vested in bringing the balance that we need to present to the court. And that balance needs to take into consideration the needs of the individual, as well as the needs of the community. because that's the way we will create these safe communities that we're working towards. I will also use my discretion, which I've been doing for many, many years, to make the decisions that I've been making over these years that I've served as a judge. So what makes me a better candidate is obviously my experience, my background, and my connection to the community.
And you may have stated this, but why are you running? And when you indicate why you're running, specifically give us what makes your background so unique to qualify you as a candidate for Superior Court judge in Fulton County.
So I'm running because I am really passionate about helping to change the community's trust in the judicial system. One of the things that I do realize, based on my experience, both in life and practice and as a judge, is that everyone, not just the powerful and the privileged, but everyone deserves fairness, justice, and equality. And that's what I'm running on, is equal justice for all. It shouldn't matter where you come from, who you are. It shouldn't matter about your socioeconomic background, your gender, your sexual orientation, your political affiliation. Everyone should be treated fairly. And many times when people come into this court or any court, they just want to be seen and heard. And so I'm running to make those changes. Fulton County is one of the busiest and most important courts, I would say, in Georgia, because the cases that come before this court, like I said earlier, affect everyone. This court hears cases that involve real estate, that involve family law, that involve criminal matters, and also with elections. I'm sure everyone is aware that there's a special jury that's been, a grand jury that's been impaneled that's looking into charges against our past president. And so those decisions come before the judges on this bench. And that's why I'm saying those decisions affect everyone in Georgia, not just Fulton County. And it's because Fulton County is the seat of Georgia when it comes to the government officials. Everything that comes through when you're talking about cases where they're suing government officials, those things come to Fulton County. And so it's important that the judges on this bench are accountable to the citizens of Fulton County, and that they have the connection to the community so that they know what's happening, versus being able to be, what's the word I want to use? You want to make sure that the judges will not have allow fear or favor to influence their decisions. And it's because of the fact that, you might have been appointed versus elected. So I'm running to be elected by the people so that I can be accountable to the people of the community, because I would be elected by them.
And I like that you mentioned that, because my next question is centered around how you will, as a Superior Court judge, how will you be fair and have an understanding of the community? In my opinion, it's hard to do that if you've been appointed, right? Because you're really not vested in the community that you're serving. And so how with you being so engulfed into this community, how will you leverage that on the bench as a Superior Court judge?
And thank you for that question, because I think it's very important that people recognize the difference between being appointed and elected. And when you have the connection to the community, you are held accountable to the community, because they are the ones who put you on the bench. They are the ones who put trust in you to make the decisions that are affecting them, because they know what those decisions are. So what will I do to ensure fairness and understanding the community? Well, being connected to the community, number one, is a big part of this, because I can talk with people in the community to determine, what is it that you see happening. I can bring them into the court system to help make some of the decisions about, well, not make some of the decisions, but to get their input on what is happening in their community or in our community, so that we can make the decision that's best for the individual and the community. As I stated earlier, it's all about balance. It's all about balance and having that connection. I'm able to identify, understand, and empathize with the community based on that connection. I believe I said earlier about having been a victim, which allows me to empathize with other victims. Being connected to the community allows me to know what's happening in my own community and knowing what other options we can address. Um, you know, when one of the things I believe that people really have an issue with at this point is what we call the revolving door recidivism.
Mm.
And so I believe that you chuckled when I said that.
Oh, yes, we know a little bit about recidivism.
Yeah. You know, and as I said earlier, I believe that everyone that works in the justice system has a responsibility and an opportunity to work together so that we can help resolve the issues in the community. And just the connection to the community as a whole will allow me to have that pulse, know the pulse of the community so that I can help create safer communities. It's a matter of not just saying this person committed this crime and so they deserve to be punished by prison. The court has other options that we can look at. And that's when I talked about earlier, looking at the person as a whole. We need to look at what has brought them into the system. What has caused them to come back into the system or to come into the system to begin with? We need to figure out how we can help that person so they don't return to the system, so that they don't commit another crime, and so that we can help create the safe communities that we all want to live in. The court now has several accountability courts. There's a DUI court, there's a drug court, there's a mental health court. And those courts can be utilized to the extent that it helps a person, not as an opportunity for them to just not go to prison, but as an opportunity for them to rehabilitate. Many times you hear about people going into prison and there's no rehabilitation when they come out. So we need to look at what type of programs we can offer to that person in order for them to not become a casualty of the prison system. We talk about the school to pipeline prison system. Mm-hmm. And so, it starts early on. And sometimes it has nothing to do with the family because the parents could be, the perfect parent. But, sometimes as parents, they may not know who their child is really hanging out with. A lot of times it's probably still relevant now that, some people don't know anything about the people they hang out with. They know them as, this is Riri or whatever nickname they have, but maybe not know their real name. And that sometimes matters because you can kind of get a background of the person that you're dealing with when you know their overall situation and whether they're a positive influence on you as the individual or as your on your child as well. And like I said earlier, we just need to make sure that we look at the person as a whole and not just consider the facts that are in front of us so that we can make an informed decision, which allows us then to use the discretion that we have when we're making those decisions.
Right. And you mentioned a lot, actually. One of the things that you mentioned that has really impacted our community, and it will probably on an ongoing basis, is when the juveniles ages 13 to 17 commit one of the 7 deadly sins. And oftentimes they're unaware of what happens. Like these particular cases do not go to juvenile court. They're actually adjudicated in superior court. And I've actually sat in a case that affected our community. And it was really, really sad because it was a second chance. So I like the fact that you will have that balance. So this young man had his second chance, and this was the second time. His whole family was there. He had just had a baby. He was only 15 years old. And in a split second, he was walking out the door on his way to prison. And so I think it is important, as you mentioned, that we help the school prison to pipeline early on, because if we can help the youth understand that we understand you're going to make mistakes along the way, but SB 440s are not, they won't put you in a position necessarily where you'll be able to have that point of no return. I'm hoping we can help bridge that gap. And I think with your community influence and being in the community as much as you have been and you are, I find that you will be a huge advocate and asset to the community from that aspect. We often don't see and hear from judges until we're in court. And our youth need to have access to judges like yourself, and to also know, what does it require to become a judge? You're not on the side of the fence where our youth like to argue. So I always tell the youth who like to argue, you should be an attorney. You like to argue, you may want to take that route, but the more level-headed youth can, embrace the role of judges perhaps. And oftentimes they do not get exposed to your career until, like I said, they're actually in court. And I would love to see that change. And it has been changing actually recently with some of the newly elected judges, not appointed ones, but the newly elected judges are in our communities. And I would love to see that continue.
Well, let me respond to that, because one of the things you said is that, the youth don't get a chance to meet judges in most situations. And so over the past several years, since I've become a judge, I've done a lot of career days. And it's funny, some of the questions that are asked, because I've done them from high school to middle school and even some elementary schools. And so you have to figure out how to present it at each age, because one of the first questions, I think it was a middle schooler, one of the first questions that he asked was, how much do judges make?
Oh,
but then the other question that was asked, which was a little disheartening, it was I think this was a middle school, the youngest in the middle school, and he asked a question about a family member being in prison. And the unfortunate, I could not respond to his question, but that was sort of a sad thing, because that was his first introduction to the justice system. Right. But the opportunity to meet with judges come through career days, and I've never hesitated to attend career days. I presented in such a fashion where they can understand. I lay out, you've got to do these things as far as education, go to school, and make sure you're not doing it for the money, because the money is not the biggest thing. You want to be able to do it because you want to help make a difference. You want to help people solve their problems, and you want to just be a kind person. But then the other part is when you're talking about becoming a judge, Gate City, and I believe we still do it. I haven't done it in a few years, particularly given COVID, has a program that I participated in called Journey to Judge. And so it gives the high schoolers an opportunity to ask questions about how we got to where we were. And I'm going to take a step back for a second, because earlier you asked me about, part of who I am. And this was not my journey. I was pre-med from high school through college. And so my intention was to be a pediatrician, which, still shows that connection to the kids. But apparently God had another path for me. And just in life experiences, I happened to have worked with a couple of different attorneys prior to going to law school. And I really just said, watching and doing what I was doing, I said, I can do this. I had no thought of the money part. It was just the fact that I was helping someone. And I still take that same mindset, that progressive mindset into my judicial positions, because even though our hands may be tied and we can't make any promises about what can happen in the outcome, we still have a unique opportunity to help make a difference in someone's life. And I say that because, as I said before, the decisions that we make do affect everyone.
In its totality. They affect the defendant, the plaintiff, the
citizens, the community,
the community, your record. I mean, because a while back there was an article that came out about some scorecards, and so we were able to, as a community, kind of see how judges we're adjudicating cases. So, I mean, like you said, it has a huge impact, and I'm glad to hear that you care.
Yeah.
It's very important. That's a very important characteristic, wholeheartedly. And
You
I
know,
was unaware of the Gate City program. I think that is an awesome program. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go right ahead.
no, I was just, you had made another statement about the court system. You know, prior to, and you did comment on being able to come into the court to watch cases. And prior to COVID, you know, courts are open. Courts are
Mhm.
open. In fact, in East Point, you can still log on as a not a participant, as someone who can watch the proceedings that occur.
Mhm.
And so court is open, and I'm always inviting people to come into court just to observe and just to see, you know, what things happen, what happens in court and the court process. And so anytime, even now, anytime from this point forward, anyone can come into court once the courts are open fully to just sit in the courtroom. And I always welcome questions, you know, at the end of court. Sometimes if I have visitors, I'll ask them if they have questions. And if there are questions that I can answer, you know, I will answer. Prior to COVID, it actually might have been during COVID, now that I'm thinking about it, but we used to have a lot of visitors in the city of Atlanta Municipal Court. And I always asked them, you know, what they thought about the process, if they thought things could be different. You know, I've always asked questions because those questions could be beneficial to helping us change the community's view on the justice system. Because of course you recognize that many of the people that go into the court system look like us, quite frankly.
They
And
do.
so that trust is not there. And I believe that when they see someone who is on the bench, who has a caring heart, who is connected to the community, and who is wanting to make a difference for that person, trying to help the communities be safer, then it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. I would agree with you wholeheartedly. And that brings me to my last question. Why now? Why does this race matter more than ever?
Well, one of the things that I will say kind of goes along with what I just said is that representation matters. Representation on the bench is a big big reason why I think people don't have trust in the justice system. Because when you walk into the courtroom, you feel like you're not heard, you're not seen, you're not treated with respect. And all of that matters when you have a person that's on the bench that has a connection, that is able to identify and empathize with what's going on. It makes a big difference when the community can feel at ease and know that the person is there is going to take them into consideration when it comes to their background, when it comes to their circumstances, when it comes to trying to make things, make sure that they're safe. You know, all those things matter. It gives them a sense of justice. It gives them a sense that things will be fair. It gives them a sense that they can come into court, that that the judge will offer them an opportunity to have their say or have their day, and so that they'll be heard and they'll be seen. It shouldn't matter who you are when you come into court about the treatment that you get when you come into court. Everyone should be treated fairly, and everyone deserves a measure of grace when you're talking about their sentencing. And that goes back to what I was saying before about taking them as a whole. Yes, they've come into court. There's a certain set of facts that are presented, and our hands are tied when it comes to certain things, but we do have discretion. We do have the opportunity to see what else can be done on behalf of this person. What else can be done on behalf of the community to make the community feel safer? What else can be done to keep that person from repeat offending? And so it matters now because the community needs to feel that there's a person that sits on this bench where the decisions that are made that affects them on a regular basis is able to identify with them, is able to empathize with them, and is able to understand what they're going through or what they've gone through. And then all that is taken into consideration when it comes to balancing, like I said before, the needs of the individual and the needs of the community, so that we can have safer communities, so that when this person either gets the second chance, they don't come back. Or if that person ends up going to jail or going to prison, when they come out, there's services that they've been able to be connected to so that they don't repeat offend, or so that they don't, influence other people. Because that's another thing that we talk about, is how, with the youth, for instance, they're being influenced now by people who are older than them, who know that if the minor is the one who is charged, that their sentence or their punishment is going to be much less, much different, depending on the charge, than if it was the adult who was committing the crime.
Mhm.
So, at the end of the day, people want to be treated fairly. People want to be heard and seen. People want to be treated with respect. And you want to have someone who is accountable to the community that it serves. And that accountability only comes by them being elected to serve in this position. That's the only way that you can be held accountable to the county that you serve.
Absolutely. You said a mouthful. And there are a few things that I was over here saying, yes, amen. And so just to kind of surmise what we've discussed and what you've shared and who you are and why it's important to elect someone that represents the majority of this county that they will serve. Okay. There will be more brown and Black people in that courtroom, and we definitely need to have that representation, that will have that balanced and fair judicialship, if that's a word, but someone who really understands the community. And I have found, even here recently, some of the judges that have been appointed have no idea about, a lot of our communities. And so they're making judgments based on things that actually have an adverse effect on our communities, but also on the person that the case is being adjudicated for. So I think, as you've stated, you've come with a huge, extensive background. We accept you here in Atlanta, even though you're from Detroit. By way of Detroit, I'm an Atlanta native. And so I understand why you're here. We love we love Atlanta. And so again, I think it's important that we have an opportunity to show up at the polls and make sure that we put someone in office that not only represents us, but that will have a huge understanding of the community that they serve. Judge Pitts has a wealth of knowledge. Her extensive background, in my opinion, makes her qualified for this position. And as Michael Cuppy just placed in the chat, he put some information in about your campaign. Are you having any upcoming meet and greets? I'm not sure if he put this in the chat, but are you having any meet and greets?
Well, actually, we are planning a fundraiser on May 3rd,
okay,
2022, and it's going to be at the law office of Forrest Johnson and Associates.
Awesome.
And it's going to be from 6 to 8. So look for that upcoming information. I would be more than happy for you all to come out to show support, to, of course, donate. It's going to be a really fun time. I have a lot of people who have endorsed me during this race, and I am more than grateful and more than happy for their endorsement. And it's been a humbling experience. And in this position, I've always tried to be humble, because it's not about who I am. It's more about what I can do to help, to help the community as a whole, or to help the individual that's in front of me. So yes, we are currently planning this upcoming fundraisers, but there are probably going to be some meet and greets in between. And so you can always check out my website at elect Judge Allyson Pitts, and Allyson, you see, is spelled Allyson,
Mhm.
electjudgeallisonpitts.com for any upcoming events. But also, I have a Facebook page. I'm on Instagram. I have a Twitter page, and I'm on LinkedIn. And so anything that the campaign is doing from this point forward, you will see, and you can always respond or reach out, and I will respond. Just give me a little time because it's been a little busy, but I definitely will respond.
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed our candid conversation. I truly believe your passion and compassion to serve the people is exactly what's needed in Fulton County. And I think you have provided a lot of information to candidates, I'm sorry, to the community tonight about your reason for running. As I mentioned, your background is very extensive. You've been serving in various capacities for a plethora of years, as you mentioned. And I will go ahead and let you know, Judge Pitts, that you have my endorsement as well. There is no other option for us in our community. You represent us as the community that we are. And just, having a conversation with you, not only tonight, but prior to tonight has helped me to really, really feel confident about having an endorsement for you. And so I would encourage anyone who hasn't had a chance to meet Judge Allyson Pitts in person to take advantage of these meet and greets. Find a way to get in front of her if you can, but if not, replay this video. I will be sending this out to all of the candidates, all of the participants who have registered tonight, so that here's what I ask: share this video with your HOAs, your family members and friends that are in Fulton County, so that if for those who may not be able to get out in person, they can hear right from this candidate, Judge Allyson Pitts themselves. And they too, I feel, will be compelled to vote for her. Early voting starts in May.
May 2nd.
May 2nd. So, we need to be prepared. And that's why we wanted to bring this to you in enough time for you to hear from the candidate yourself, and be prepared to vote for Judge Allyson Pitts on May 2nd. Do you have any final words for everyone tonight?
I do. Two things. The first thing is quick, but the second thing is a little bit longer. So first of all, you can actually meet me if you like. I will be at the Sandtown Pub tomorrow for a networking event. I totally forgot about that, but I will be there tomorrow. So you can always come and meet. And one of the things I'll say along those lines of not getting to meet a judge, I tell people when they come into the courtroom, a lot of times you can see how nervous they are. And, I try to make them feel comfortable. And so I'll say, are you nervous? No one feel really nervous. And so I'll say, just take a breath, and I'll take the breath, literally take the breath with them. And then it becomes a lighter situation. And so I say to them, the biggest difference between us is that I'm sitting up here with the black robe, but I'm just human, just like you. So that's the biggest difference that's obvious. And so I don't decide, anyone's level of whatever, because we're all human. Absolutely. So the last thing that I should have said is a little long, is that I'm running on equal justice for all. And I'm experienced, I'm fair, and I'm efficient. And the judges on this bench, again, hear cases that affect everyone. And I talked about those types of cases. You want a judge that's committed to the community, that's connected to the community, so that we can know the best way to help create a safer community. You also want a judge who will be accountable to the citizens in that community. You want a judge that you know will not let fear or favor influence their decision.
Mhm.
You want a judge who will bring balance to the bench, which I mentioned I bring based on my level of experience and the fact that I've been serving. And I am the only candidate who has the amount of judicial experience that I have. As I said on May, I believe it's May 9th, but in May, I will have served as a judge for 15 years.
Wow.
And so that is a long time to have been entrusted because yes, those appointments were, those positions were appointed, but I was appointed by my peers. And so
Mhm.
they've entrusted me to make the decisions that I've been making all these years that affect people's lives. And so, again, when you have judges on this bench, you want to make sure that they treat everyone with respect. You want to make sure that they allow the person to know and feel that they are heard and seen. And you want to know that that is all, regardless of who they are, regardless of their racial makeup, their socioeconomic status, their sexual orientation, everyone is going to be treated fairly. And again, it's important that that the individual is treated as such, that we don't rubber stamp just because. We look at them as a whole. We look at the circumstances behind or surrounding what may have brought them in the court in the first place. And we bring people in to help make choices of how we can help the individual. And this all goes towards safer communities. This all goes towards helping the community feel that they can walk down the street and not have to look over their shoulders. You also want a judge who, allows the opportunity for even the citizens to have a say, because we are the ones who are affected by what happens, here. We are the ones who are affected by this. And so it's good to get some feel or comments from them to know, what options they think are feasible. You want a judge who will work towards safe communities, again, by bringing that balance. And so, again, I'm the only candidate who has the 15 years of experience that I have. And so I am asking that you vote for me on May 24th to serve as your next Fulton County Superior Court judge. I bring experience, I bring fairness, I bring efficiency, and I am definitely committed to equal justice for all. So
That's awesome, Judge Allyson Pitts. And one thing that I do want to just lastly say, even though I'm going to give it back to you so you can actually have the last word, final word. You have served across all of the branches in the judicial system: juvenile court, municipal court, superior court. Did I miss one?
Magistrate court.
Magistrate court. You have served in every capacity. You talk about experience, that's unmatched. That's
Yeah.
unmatched. And that beats an appointment at any point in time. So let's make sure we do the right thing and show up to the polls and elect Judge Allyson Pitts to serve as our next Fulton County Superior Court judge. I'll let you have the last word again, and then we will end it on your words.
Thank you. So again, I bring experience, 15 years on the bench. I bring the experience based on my background with respect to the areas of law that I've practiced, from criminal defense. Oh, I always forget because it was a short period of time, but I actually served as a prosecutor for all of 2 months, but I have that experience as well. So I have experience on both sides from serving as a criminal defense attorney, a prosecutor, handling family law, criminal matters, civil matters. And those are all types of cases that are handled in this superior court.
Absolutely.
And so again, you can meet me tomorrow at the Sandtown Pub. I'll be there 7-ish for a networking event. And then feel free to come up and chat with me. I will be more than welcoming to chat with you as well. And again, I ask for your vote and your support on May 24th, 2024. I ask for your vote to serve as your next Fulton County Superior Court judge. Please go to my website and read more about me and reach out, and I'll reach back. Thank you. And Daphne, again, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Absolutely. And thank you for allowing me and us to have this candid conversation that we can share with the community. And again, Judge Allyson Pitts' information is in the chat. And you can also find her information online, as well as she will be at the Sandtown Pub tomorrow at 7-ish for those of you that would like to meet her in person. Don't forget to show up on May the 2nd to early vote and make sure that you cast your vote for Judge Allyson Pitts. I am telling my entire family, those of you that are watching tonight on Facebook Live, we, the Jordans, are endorsing Judge Allyson Pitts. So make sure that when you show up to the polls, that you select Judge Allyson Pitts as our next Superior Fulton County Court Judge. Thank you all for coming, and I hope this was helpful. It was an extremely good conversation to have with you tonight,
Thank you.
Judge Allyson Pitts, and I hope to see you soon.
Yes, me too.
All right, take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.